Good morning and welcome to America's Home Cooking. Today I got veal cutlets. I was talking with a dear friend and she said her chicken breasts were already cut and she said they weren't cutlets. Well, they make pork cutlets because they cut them thin. They make veal cutlets because they cut them thin. You have chicken cutlets because they're already thinly cut. This is pork, but you have chicken cut like that, so they're chicken cutlets automatically, okay? Now, I am going different today. I have those red peppercorns, which give heat, right? Why not? So I'm going to put some in here into my mortar and pestle, and we're going to grind some of these up. We're going to see how it comes out. I have no idea. And I'm going to put them with dill and some salt. And we will be putting these together, but first I've got to get these peppers done. Now I have 5 cutlets right here. I've already rinsed them in cold water, patted them dry with paper towels, and I have them in there. And people say, well, why do you do that? Well, when you unpackage the cutlets or the meat, you feel that slime on them. That's what I'm actually rinsing off. See how these come out with this. It'll be interesting. So we get a bowl, and you know I'm going to get a fork, always. Of veal cutlets, and 3 ounces is 25 grams. So you're going to say that's very little meat, but the thing is 5 times 25 is 125 grams of protein. Protein is made up of the amino acids. So if you start taking your amino acids individually, you're going to cause an imbalance in your body. Well, think about that. I'm going to use my yeah, it fights me sometimes to get open. Because it's alive. You ought to see when it goes over the jar and I try to get it out of the jar, get the lid open. Man, it's holding on to it and it wants out. And I said, I'm trying to get you out, but you won't let go of the lid, you know? And my discard is just extra sourdough culture that I have. Instead of flushing it down the sink or put it in my compost, I'll sit there and I'll use it this way, and then that way I don't waste. It all goes to use it. Sometimes you'll see me putting in biscuits, sometimes you see me putting in bread, sometimes you see me using it as it is an excellent coating, by the way, I have to say that. Now I'm going to put dill in here. How much into my culture? I have no idea. Come on. I know I cut my nails there. Put in as much as you want for flavoring. You have to think of the flavoring and what you're doing. If I get a recipe, well, you know, I read it out. But this is me, just throwing this together for today. Today's a simple day. I have yams. I'm baking yams today. I'm going to put sour cream and butter on them. And what else? Salt and pepper on them. If I have time, I might do some bacon and put it on too. Now, if you want to know what that green stuff is that I just put in here, it's actually a mixture of iodized salt and kelp. Now, I use kelp because it's got minerals and stuff in it, not just iodine that you need, but it has a high iodine as well. But it has other nutrients in it. So I use it. It was very hard. If you're going to use this mixture, I'd strongly start off with, let's say for every 1/4 of a cup of kelp you use, put 3/4 of a cup of iodized salt. When they get accustomed to that flavor, move it up to 1/3 kelp and 2/3 salt. And then after that, and they get accustomed to it, you move it up to 50-50. And then I'm at 3/4 kelp and 1/4 iodized salt. But it was not something that I did overnight. It took time. My husband's taste buds were really sharp. I mean, if I put a drop in, he knew it. So I had to go very slow for him. And I'm sure you sit there and say, some of the things you do just don't sound. Well, women can't afford to waste. Now you're gonna have to mix this up thoroughly, or you'll find just one side gets coated and the other side doesn't. Because this is very tacky, which I like, that it is this tacky. That's the sourdough culture, and it sticks like glue. So it's really good. It'll hold those flavors and stuff in it. And the reason I pat the meat dry after I rinse it is it's watery. If you try to put seasonings and stuff with it, it slides off. If you use an egg wash, you'll also notice that when you dip them in, the egg slides right off. So I found a sourdough culture really just holds on. It doesn't slide off, it sticks. Which I said, okay, this I like very, very much. Don't have any extra flour now. I'm going to be using my extra flour that I collect when I cook. And this has seasonings in it as well. So I don't know what seasonings, but they smell good. So as you can see, I take some of the same dishes and I make them different, or I'll do something different. This is how you keep your family going. They never know what you're going to give them next. And that's good, you know? They need a variety in their life, as they say. Now, I'm using whole wheat flour, which is going to give me my B vitamins. Let's see, what flour would I like to try this with? Well, I have some millet flour, and I'll mix it with the whole wheat. It's a beautiful yellow flour. Non-GMO. It's a whole grain. You can get it from Bob's Red Mill. I think it'll go well with the whole wheat that I have here and the seasonings. Just give these a different flavor. Now in Europe, we're going to talk about veal cutlets, and I'll explain why I'm talking about them. When you go to Europe, they sit there and they have a cut of veal that is extremely tender. What it is across the grain in grains. America, when you get to that piece of meat that they make the veal cutlets out, they go with the grain. In other words, if the grains are going this way, they're going to cut it this way. So they get every little piece. Now, when you sit there and do the European veal cutlets, the grain's going like this, they're going to cross it here. So there's waste at this end and there's waste at this end. They just take from the middle. Theirs is so tender compared to what we have, because and it costs more if you ask them for veal cutlets across the grain, because there's waste at either end. But they are so tender and so beautiful, you cannot complain. So if you go to Europe and you order veal cutlets and they come out and they taste different, or they're more tender than the Americans. It's because Americans go across the grain to get as much out of the meat, and there's no waste. That is the difference from European veal cutlets and regular cutlets. So remember, if you go to the butcher and you sit there and say, I'd like veal cutlets, cross grain please, he'll know what you want, but he'll also be charging you probably $1 more. Okay, so that's what goes on there. Let me get a rack. Now, I know that my sourdough sticks to the veal very well. I don't have to worry about it. But a lot of you use egg and milk and it comes off. So what I do is I show you that I will drench them first in flour, and I put them on a rack. Now the reason I put them on the rack after I drench them is to give them time to absorb the flour, to adhere to it. This is why they say press hard when you have cutlets, to make sure that you get it in. Even the cube steaks, you press in to make sure you get that flour coated onto it to hold your seasonings. It doesn't always work unless you're using this. So what I do is show you that we'll lay it out, give it about 5 minutes, and where it's moist, you'll see the moisture coming through the flour, and you have to add more flour, and that's where I'll do that second drenching. And I press when I deal with cutlets or cube steaks, I press it in. How am I going to do this? I might only get 3 on here because I got some big ones here too. So these are little things that you do that make your food better. I think I can get 5 on this, yeah. And the lard that I made is coming out beautifully. I called my butcher. He was supposed to call me Monday. He hasn't called. I might have to call or just go by on Friday and see what happened to the lard order, the fat order that I put in so I could make lard. I have one more, but we're gonna let those sit and see where they're moist, and then we'll drench them a second time to make sure they don't stick. Now, what am I frying it in? Peanut oil and butter that I had done a couple of days ago. I stuck it in a measuring cup, and I'm just gonna finish up on it. Use some of it today, and we'll get these done. No reason to have thrown it out. I stuck it back in the refrigerator. See, I stuck it in the refrigerator. I didn't leave it out because the oils have nutrients. They have your acids in them, and you don't want them to go rancid. This is why if your oil starts to smoke, you've already burnt that. The acid's in there and the oil is no good. This is why when you use bacon grease, if you have to use it, you only saw me use it once, only because the recipe said to. If you use bacon grease, you have to put it in the refrigerator, but realize you're cooking the bacon at a high heat. You're destroying those nutrients, and it attacks the kidney. I mean, not the kidneys, the liver. When you burn your bacon, or it's rancid, or anything that you eat out, it attacks your liver. Have you ever seen people really blown up in the belly, just the belly, but they're real skinny? This is because if they're drinking or taking drugs or eating food that has gone bad, the liver is attacked. This is why the problem. And then you end up with a foul-smelling gas and everything else. This is why I'm as careful as I can be. I'm not going to tell you I'm perfect. I'm far from it. But I work at being better. All right, I don't think I'm going to be using this a second time. I only used this, it was so short, it didn't make sense. So you have to be aware of that. You always have to be aware of what's going on in the kitchen, because whatever you do, your family is going to be the ones that will. If they don't do it while you're alive, they're going to be paying for it after you're gone. Okay, put this here. See, I drenched these very, very well. You see that? They're not really coming through. They're trying, like here, but they're doing very, very well. This is why you give them time to absorb. If they need more, you can always add more flour. It's not that they're going to die from it. Oh, I can't put it there. So when you see those people blown up, realize that they've got just in the middle, and you've seen people like that. Their liver is under stress. If you see people with a yellow cast over their skin, when you look at them, they look like, you see them, but they seem to register yellow on your eye, their liver's going. Liver disease is setting in. That's how you know. And how did I learn this? Having a husband in medicine. You really do learn a few things. You're probably saying, no, you really don't want to learn it. But you find yourself learning it. And you're saying, do I really, really need this? I'm going to add a little more butter and oil to make sure I have enough to do these in. Corn oil too. What an unusual combination. Corn oil, butter, and peanut oil. Alright, that should be enough. Alright. You see how they're changing just a little? So I'm just going to give them a little more coat, and that will be it. You don't have to press as hard on the second time. You do shake the excess off. You see the difference? The reason I use dill is dill goes so nice with pork. The same thing can go for fried chicken. When you go to fried chicken, drench it once, put it on a rack, drench it a second time. And if you have a sourdough culture and you put that on it, you can see how that flour sticks better and you get a better crunch. No, I'll get my serving platter. Hold on. Now because cutlets are thin, remember they cook fast. They don't take until they get dark brown. You have to have the oil very, very hot to do that. But remember, cutlets cook very, very quickly. The longer you leave them in, the tougher they get. So you try to catch them at that point where they're just done. So they're not raw, but they're not so tough. You could wear them a shoe after that. As we used to say in Texas, and my mom did it. We wouldn't say it to her face, but we'd say, hey, that was pretty tough. You know? It should have a nice golden color or pale color. But you can sit there and add a sauce to it, a gravy to it. If you have vegetables and you want to saute them and just spread them over. Now, you can treat these like liver. When you're done, take some butter, take some onions, and saute them, and then lay them over the cutlets. It's just as good. Trying to get you over here. Just give me a minute. Whoops, you got caught.